A few days ago, a group called Patriot Front did what would you call it? I guess a mission. They did a little march in the Capitol area in Washington D.C. The town, to put it as Obi-Wan Kenobi put it, of scum and villainy. Um, a wretched hive of scum and villainy. I was trying to recall the exact words. Well, these guys, and there were lots of them, there were hundreds of them, they got into Ryder trucks and U-Hauls, and they got out of their Ryder trucks and U-Hauls, and they're decked out in these sort of militia-like gear, and they had, except for the lead guy, who I don't know his name, but the rest of them were all wearing masks over their faces, so you couldn't identify them. There couldn't be. There was no means of identifying, taking pictures of them and figuring out who they really were. But these guys got into formation, marched around the Capitol area, holding up signs and chanting things in a sort of army cadence kind of way. And the signs were saying, freedom, liberty. There was no there was no definitive message in so far as what they were saying, but it was more like the image that they cut. Just these hundreds of men marching, or marching quickly, like jogging in military formation, with holding up these signs saying Patriot Front, and I will include a link to the actual event below. And eventually they attracted some attention. There was a helicopter overhead, and some Antifa started following them and trying to distract them with loud noisemakers and stuff. But apparently they did this. They went to they jogged into the Capitol Mall. They went up the steps. They completed this mission, and then they went off and got back into their Ryder trucks and U-Hauls again, and took off. And ever since this happened, there's been some question from people, including myself, about just what. Well, first of all, whether this group can be trusted. Are they an authentic group? Whatever it is that they stand for, you don't really get a sense of what they stand for from this event, seeing them in this way. But you do. I mean, it does conjure up fascist kinds of vibes. Men marching in formation, geared up with uniforms on, chanting in a military cadence, and so this was obviously a right-wing group, or something designed to be seen as a right-wing group with perhaps fascist leanings, and they're certainly displaying a fascist aesthetic. So a lot of people were saying these guys must be feds, because, the reasoning was this is going to, this, or my reasoning when I was thinking this, when I was wondering about this, when I had this suspicion that they might be feds, was just how is this event going to help the the cause of ending liberal norms and having conservative or right-wing ideas, come to ascendancy? How is this going to bring that about? Okay, so the part of me that wondered, are these guys just feds? Is the fact that, number one, although I'm not putting them down for doing what they did, because it was an accomplishment, and I'm glad that they masked themselves up, not because I'm pro-mask, as you know, but just because, memories of Charlottesville, the Tiki Torch rally that became a disaster because the leaders of that rally didn't think long term, or worse, perhaps they knew that long term they were what exactly they were doing, because who knows who you can trust and who you can't trust, really. But anyway, the Tiki Torch rally, there were lots of pictures taken of those people who participated. So angry, screaming faces of of white hate, and a lot of people, suffered because of that. A lot of people who participated in that rally lost their jobs, or lost their livelihoods, lost their reputations, lost their families. It was a disaster. So at least, if these guys are legit, at least they're protecting themselves, which I can appreciate. But here's the thing: what did even if it was an impressive sort of display, if you want to look at it as a flex, like a we're here and we're your worst nightmare, and we're not going anywhere. If the whole idea was just to freak out leftists and liberals by displaying these kinds of aesthetics and putting on display this kind of show, if that was the idea, I get the appeal of spooking liberals and leftists, but what is accomplished by that, really, long term, or even short term? What does it do? How does it help? Right? The idea, the fact is that people in America overwhelmingly do not want fascist or National Socialist appearing aesthetics. They see those kinds of aesthetics and they think that it's sinister because, rightly or wrongly, it's what they've been trained. It's how they've been trained to think. So somebody who is still embracing those aesthetics and advancing them and putting them forward, even if they were put forward in a competent way, and people, the ones who were arguing again, who were saying no, of course they're not feds. They were saying things like, oh well, these are fit young men, who are competent and who are on the job, and they contrast that to, I don't know, some dumpy looking let's go Brandon, Trump supporter, MAGA kind of person. Like they want to say, these are people who are serious, whereas the let's go Brandon types aren't really that serious, aren't really that impressive, and so forth and so on. It's sort of like this whole, I guess, wing nat versus what's the other side? I can't remember the name of the other side, but the whole screw your optics, the whole don't be an optics cuck. Um, well, the thing is that optics do matter, and if you're just going to be, if you're not even going to think, how does this help anyone? How does this benefit how does this benefit our cause? How is this going to advance our ideas? Then even if you're not feds per se, then you're doing the job that feds would be doing because we all have known, we've known for a long time, that people who come up and manifest as these Hollywood Nazi types are more often than not feds, because they want to make right-wing ideas or conservative ideas look scary and frightening, and they want to make the people look like if they got power, there would be a new Holocaust. And you gotta be realistic. It's realpolitik is what they call it, and they call it that for a reason. I get the appeal of National Socialist aesthetics. I've seen Triumph of the Will by Leni Riefenstahl. I know they did some impressive things visually, but regardless of whether you like it or dislike it, you have to be realistic and ask what good is going to come of this. And if your answer is this is just going to give the left the heebie-jeebies, and then it's going to escalate things even more, then I don't think that's. I'm not an escalationist. I don't believe that the way in which things have escalated since 2015 or so, I don't think that's been good. It hasn't been good. It's not good for the system. It's not good for the psyche. It's not good in any way. This heightening, this intentional provocation, this intentional effort to to escalate things. You have certain certain speakers, certain personalities who can represent their side and represent can put a good face on it, a friendly face on it, who can be disarming, right? I know that anything that's ever advanced, that is ever right-wing or conservative in any way, will be called fascist by the unhinged left. I know that to be the case. I know they're going to call you Nazi anyway, but that doesn't mean you should go and do and engage in or take part in these kinds of stunts, which cause them to really suspect that you are one, because you're acting like one, because you're dressing like one. So I guess I'll wrap up my thoughts here ultimately on the Patriotic Front and what they did in Washington, D.C. I have some. There's a part of me that appreciates it, because I appreciate balls. I appreciate ballsy, stunts, if you will. I get it. I get the appeal. But strategically, somebody's got to tell me how that's going to help create a better country for us and for our children. How is that not going to just make things continue to escalate. Hostilities continue to escalate, and until we're at a full-fledged civil war, right? Maybe you think that maybe that's what you want. Maybe you think we just need to keep we need to keep up the hostilities, and just keep up the escalation until we finally until this Cold War becomes hot and we finally just have it out in a real orgy of violence that would make the first Civil War look like a picnic. I happen not to think that that's the way to go. Well, because for one thing, just putting aside the moral considerations for a moment, which I don't put those aside at all. The idea that a lot of innocent people would die in such a horror. But how do you know that you would win? How do you know that that would be to your advantage? What if you lost? If you lost, then things would be worse than they are now, probably. And any trace of conservative or right-wing ideas or ideologies or anti-modern notions, any trace of that would be even further castigated than it is now, because it would be thought of as, oh, you're these violent people. You're showing support for these violent people who started a civil war. So I just don't understand, even if I will grant you the Patriotic Front are non-Fed. I don't know whether they are or not, or if some of them might be. I'm sure that there are some at least embedded there, even if the outfit itself is authentic. But I don't get how it's not ultimately doing the work of the feds, even if they're authentic. Okay, so feel free to come at me, but if you're going to come at me, have something to say. Have a reasoning, have a take, and don't suck, as Jim Rome, the sports broadcaster, used to say when I was still listening to him. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com, and my latest book, The Insurrectionist, may be purchased at terrorhousepress.com.